Okay, so we are live on YouTube, we are live on Facebook, we are live on Zoom. So we have been joined by around 70 people, and more people would be joining soon. So welcome everyone for the Digital Gurukul Masterclass, where we invite Asia's leading digital professionals for the Power Pack online session. And today we have with us none other than Mr. Abhigyan Shekhar, who heads the sales at Boot, which is the property of Viacom. So I'll just give you the keynote speaker overview, and then our speaker would overtake and take the entire session. So I'll just request everyone to mute themselves. Today we have today's topic is potential of digital video, and I'll just brief you about our keynote speaker. So Mr. Abhigyan Shekhar, he has a 15 plus years of experience in media and entertainment industry with the product planning, pricing, analytics, and ad formats, digital evangelization, lead advertising monetization for starsports.com and Hotstar, revenue growth for large advertising and media agencies, cross-functional collaboration, C-suite relationships, new business opportunity and partnership, sponsorship sales, project management and consultancy. He has previously worked with Google, Star India, CNBCTV 18, World Sports Group, and now Viacom 18. And he would be discussing on potential of digital video. So without wasting any time, over to you, Mr. Abhigyan.
Thank you, Raj. Good evening, everyone. Raj, I know gave a very detailed introduction, so I just had used that as my initial slide, but I'll just quickly talk about in terms of the experiences I have. I have spent some time of my career doing some media planning at Viacom in its early days. I've spent some time of my career doing sports marketing, trying to sell sports assets, and the last decade or so has been in online media. Especially in 3-4 years, I've become a bit of a digital video expert, which hopefully I'll try and share some of the experiences I've garnered over the last few years with you guys. The reason I also want to give a bit of the background, and I actually want to step back further, is to tell you where we all come from in today's time and era. So I represent, I'm sorry, my machine is a bit slow. Yeah. So I represent Viacom 18. I hope all of you know about us. We're a joint venture between Viacom CBS, run a set of international channels. MTV, they introduced, at least in my younger days, they introduced youth music to us. They own Paramount Pictures, which has made movies like Godfather or the Mission Impossible series, basically. And Network 18, which is owned by Reliance Industries, which obviously changed the digital ecosystem by the launch of Jio 2-3 years back. Network 18 has a lot of news channels in English or general news or business news, both across Hindi, English, a lot of regional languages, and a lot of media assets in the digital space also, the logos which are mentioned out there. Network 18 is the majority owner of Viacom 18. Specifically a bit more on Viacom 18. We launched in 2007 with 2 channels, MTV and Nickelodeon. We right now at 52 channels across different genres like entertainment, like youth, like music, like kids animation, across different languages, Hindi, English, regional set of regional languages basically. We got into the live business and the consumer licensing business some time back. So like, for instance, till the world was a different place, we used to do the Supersonic Music Festival, which is possibly India's largest music festival at Pune. We produced films under the Viacom 18's motion picture division. So we've done blockbusters like Padmavat to critically acclaimed movies like Andhadhun. And I specifically represent Digital Ventures, which has a set of consumer brands, which I talk about obviously in much greater detail as we go along. Now, the reason I put this, all of us had some 2020 plans. My company had, our floor had basically of what we'll do in 2020. But I think this is, I picked up the trend analysis from Google, and obviously this is unprecedented. The reason I put it out here is that whatever numbers and projections you're going to see was done in a slightly different time, and how many of them will hold true is always a bit of a conjecture. I definitely have not seen anything remotely close like that. I think none of us have seen it. And the last thing which happened was possibly the Second World War, which hopefully our forefathers had seen, which is around 70 or 80 years back. So, but these numbers obviously still hold true in terms of the directional point of view. Obviously, the quantum will change and all. But overall, I don't want to sell to the converted, but we know that the global economy is been forced to do a digital transformation. So, and media is already going through that phase, but there are different sectors, like even the education sector, which hopefully all of us are sort of part of. That has seen a total boom, right? So different sectors are forced to think digitally. What we have been actually doing for the last few years, when I say we, all the traditional media company who has a backing from some another world altogether. We all know that how mobile is taking center stage and video is the lead medium for a bulk of the growth which is happening. But if you step back even further, overall, how large is the media entertainment sector in India? And if I see some numbers, it's about roughly 26 billion. And this is, again, the estimates can vary. This is an ENY estimate for last year, from last year. But 26 billion makes it slightly less than 1% of the Indian economy. Just to give you a benchmark, globally in advanced sectors, 2 to 3% is the contribution of the media entertainment sector. So obviously, we have a lot of headroom to grow out there. We have been going faster than the nominal GDP growth over the last few years. But the important thing, if you notice, is that advertising revenue has been outstripped by the overall sector growth dramatically. What also happened, interestingly, last year was digital media overall overtook film entertainment, which is a very large and a very visible industry in India. So obviously, we are on a great trajectory per se. And what is digitization is helping us further do is unlocking the potential of direct to consumer. India was always very, very skewed towards advertising per se. I'm not talking just about new media, but even traditional media, like what we pay for newspapers, for instance. Even we pay a couple of rupees, which even with purchasing power parity and all, just does not cover the cost of the entire newsprint. It was always advertising, which was bearing the burden of the media business per se. So that honestly has also started getting corrected. And some of these trends which you can see is about how subscription is coming in its own right, and digital is allowing you to unlock it even further and even quicker. So that is the interesting trend path we were on. I don't know, again, you need to talk about it, but with by any stretch of imagination, these numbers they look very substantial. They're as good as a continent-sized economy like Europe is. And when the reason I put all these slides up is that the reason when there are such large numbers staring at you, you need to pay cognizance. These are not small numbers by any stretch of imagination. What was happening while internet was growing very fast, unlike the typical broadcast business, it had a slightly different gender slant for sure. So, like for instance, television, which is the largest media category in this country and definitely our core business, was evenly skewed with a bit of a slant towards women. You had a slightly about 53% women against 47% men who consume TV basically. Internet was radically different. Internet was the other end of the spectrum. And urban-rural divide was actually made no difference. Rural was even further sharpening. Obviously, also, internet was much younger, which is not the case with television. And obviously, it was like the new generation. The guy was growing in the what you call the digital age. Basically, they were possibly adopting to internet much faster than some of the older family members per se. So television has a much wider dispersion. Internet was male focused and maybe with a much more stronger youth slant than what television had. And obviously, in light of such numbers, light of such trends, we're all storytellers. And the idea was we were so far making stories only for the larger screen. If the audience was moving en masse, showing, which I showed in the last few slides, the large numbers, we needed to just cover this space also, the digital space, whether it's mobile, whether it's your screens, all the digital screens basically, but it came with its own set of complication, which was very different from how traditionally we used to do our business. In terms of investing in consumer tech, in terms of investing in ad tech was radically different. So it was a bit of a mindset shift, which all of the traditional broadcasters had to do. But if you ask me pretty much now, each and every broadcaster worth the salt have it covered. I'll also talk about from a consumer segmentation point of view. This is an ENY estimate of how India is split per se. And again, this is some future projection, which might, if you ask me personally, it might get hastened further because the adoption of digital, at least in the media space, was going to be quicker than what was the trend prediction going to be like. So digital only audience is what you classically call the cord cutters in the West, the people who have access to nothing but only digital devices. So as we see 2018, 2019, that growth was fairly substantial, maybe a few of you out here. But I believe that bulk of us would possibly lie in the second segment, which is we'll still have a pay TV or a DTH connection or a cable TV connection at home, but we'll be also subscribing to the subscription services of the Netflixes, Amazon Prime of the world, Food Selects of the world. We'll be consuming what we call premium content in our language. Bundled digital is pay TV plus some bit of the free massive content, what Hotstar provides, what Wood provides, what Z5 provides, basically. Mass consumers are the guys who are dependent on their telcos. So you don't really subscribe to, but you're going with the Jio TVs or the Vodafone Plays or the Airtel Live TVs, basically, or whatever content aggregating your telco is doing. So you're not really buying any different pack, but you're going in for that. What your telco is providing you, and free consumers are the terrestrial audience, basically the guys who are not even buying pay TV possibly. So from our point of view, we have to do a segmentation. The obvious opportunity was this, the digital and tactical digital segment, which was looking for content, but television was just too wide, or even cinema was a bit too wide to cater to their requirement per se. And this is what led to what the content which we talk about a lot, be it a Asur, be it a Patal Lok, whatever moves us basically. It's Indian stories, but in a different grammar than what was not being done in India so far. So this was what you call the top of pyramid audience for any OTT platform. And then there was the addressable audience, which was for anyone from a pay TV operator point of view, of the people who were sort of, sorry, is there a question?
No, I will take the question in the later.
Okay, great. So this is what you call from a consumer segmentation. What is our addressable audience? These are the guys who are paying for our content on television and can afford to pay on digital also. So these are the two basic segmentation on which you look at any product building approach. Obviously, it has led to a different kind of players who are trying to capture this entire boom of online video space per se. There are the global players, from the YouTubes to Prime Videos to Netflix to even TikTok, which is making a lot of way right now. But there are all the telcos, which are fueling this entire growth. There are all the aggregators, and a lot of them come, a lot of them go, basically, unfortunately, because it's also a fairly brutal business to that degree. We just had View, which had shut shop some time back. We have Hook, which has shut a shop some time back. They're the guys who are who started off trying to capture the digital on the first two segmentation, which I spoke about. They were content players only catering to them. Obviously, TVF was the leader of the pack out there, but you have a bunch of players talking to different kind of audience, even in different geographies, catering only to Bengali audience, for instance. So there were digital only content players, which mushroomed dramatically. They're all the DTH players also trying to get into content and video aggregation. They're the unrelated players to a degree. The Flipkarts and the Zomatos of the world, their core business was not about video at all, but they got into video content because also video is a great way to drive engagement around the platform, around the app per se. So I think someone is also, I don't know if someone is taking control of this, because there are some things being drawn on the screen. Any which ways, I'll continue.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, continue.
Yeah. And there are obviously all the broadcast OTTs. If you ask me, between the 6 names out there, we pretty much control all the IPs which matter in the television world. So every major broadcaster across different languages, different genres has been covered out there. And all of us have plays out there. So it's a fairly, as you can see, it's a fairly cluttered and a competitive market per se. It's obviously showing in terms of the OTT boom, which is happening out here. And this, I'm looking at comparing both the global numbers and the Indian numbers. Globally, it's happening, and it's bound to happen a lot. Netflix is having its best time ever thanks to the post-lockdown. Unfortunate, but for the bulk of the economy, for business. But obviously, there's one segment which is benefiting a lot. And I personally believe this entire skew, which was already there, will further get highlighted. We are within the OTT space, we are rising faster than the global standards. And I personally believe, obviously, this will go a lot faster for OTT video growth overall, for internet advertising, for all the other formats which are mentioned also out there, because this will be pipe agnostic. That's the reason it's OTT independent of anything else. But if you see from a consumer lens, this is what our the business lens was. But for a consumer, what is the consumer looking for? The consumer possibly gets access to 4 different kind of video content. One is the premium video, which all of us operate in, and the different premium video platforms have different business models to sustain them. There is what you call in our language, there is SVOD and there is AVOD, subscription video on demand or advertising video on demand. So you either pay for that content or someone like an advertiser enables the payment for it so that you get it for free. That's the two business models. But this premium video content comes from premium video content creators. So it comes with a bit of a quality benchmark, which is higher. It may not appeal to your senses. That's a different thing. That's a subjective view. But overall, it comes from established storytellers. So that is the top of pyramid for us. Then there is social video. Obviously, sort of TikTok dictates that a lot in the last past with their massive growth in India. But let's not remember even YouTube. The origin was in social video, where my content, for good or bad, can be hosted out there along with a proper YouTube stars or a TikTok stars versus what can be very, very unsafe content, which the social media platforms also keep discovering at some point in time. So the problem with social video is that it's good, bad, ugly, everything coexisting in one place. Then there is the live events, and live events is not just about live sports, but it's also about live music events now. It's about live award shows. We've streamed the Lakme Fashion Week last year. We streamed the Global Citizens sometime in early morning of one Sundays of April, which was around the COVID pandemic itself. But it was a global event, brought everywhere in the world. We did our bit out here in India. Facebook did something out there. So the live streaming bit, we are streaming this session right now. So that is one way of also people consuming that content. And then there is interactive, which is the smallest, but it is growing the fastest. It started off obviously with gaming. Console gaming is quite big abroad. I don't know how many of you is actually for the next generation, so it's bypassed me for sure. But I know PUBG became a big rage out here in India, and then there was the Bandersnatch, which was around entertainment. So these are the 4 different genre ways a consumer can sort of consume the content. And the idea was, when you are trying to build a consumer product out, you need to cater to all the 4. So yeah, so this has been our journey. We launched Woot as a pure AVOD platform, which I represent in year 2016. Under the Woot umbrella, we launched something called the Woot Studio. I talk about the relevance of what it does around 2018. Late last year, Woot Kids, which used to be a subset of Woot overall, was siphoned off and was launched as our first subscription platform. This was in November. And just before the lockdown, around 2020, February, we launched Woot Select, which is our premium content offering. So if you see our journeys, this is what a 4-year journey has been like. We are India's second biggest premium AVOD platform, basis watch time, and these are the 4 consumer brands we have. Speaking a bit quickly in this thing, what are each and every offering is all about. So there is Woot Kids, which is India's only multi-format kids app to a degree. So it's not just about video, which was the starting point for all the OTT players, but it's about a lot of ebooks. It's a lot of about audio podcasts. So you can watch, you can listen, you can read, you can do multiple stuff. It's about fun, learning, all of it together. Anyone eligible for that, I'll request you to go and sample it. Give me consumer feedback if you want. Give me overall product feedback if you want. And it's done again phenomenally well around this time when summer vacations are on and people are locked in. So this has been good for business to that degree, but it's also about a very strong product offering, which is there for the consumers, and something which they never had experience like that, because whatever is happening on e-learning space was always meant for a slightly more mature. It was always in the education space instead of just the fun and learning space, basically. We launched Wood Kids sometime back. Acquired a lot of some content from abroad. Obviously, we use international content. Some of our own IPs we are going to use by doing a simulcast and all, and we're commissioning a set of originals. But instead of talking about it, I'll just play a quick sizzle. I hope all of you can see this. If not, just someone will have to raise a hand and just tell me. So just a quick for you to get a flavor. Straight to the penthouse, it only goes one way every day. ये बहुत लंबा जाएगा लोनाक. Take it to the top. Come on now! Take it to the top. Yeah, some of our shows have rated very well on IMDb. I don't know if anyone has managed to catch it, but Asur has got a lot of PR also, has rated very well, some of our original shows also. So I'll request everyone to go and have a look at it. Also give us feedback if required. But this is on the subscription space, basically, of how we are as a traditional broadcaster with a young digital venture business trying to compete. The business which is our bread and butter business is basically the overall AWOD business, which caters to the digital audience at large. And how do you make it relevant for advertisers? Because that's the key segment which it talks to. Obviously, again, I don't need to talk to the converted, but there are different aspects of digital advertising. But if I were to do my own segmentation, my entire play is for the TV plus video. How do we make video media planning as screen agnostic as possible? That's the challenge which we try and grapple with, basically, because that's the entire opportunity that independent of the pipe, the consumer should have a seamless experience, the advertiser should have a seamless experience. And that's an ever evolving journey. This is what is leading to the entire growth also. As we can see, the overall, obviously, digital video spends is growing faster than the rest of the industry overall. It's almost a 60% growth last year. But the way we look at it is a TV plus video combined approach. And a bit of the play is also around the display spends and the affiliate, less affiliate, but content influencer territory. Give you a sense, small numbers, but possibly for YouTube, about 15 to 20% of their revenues come from pure performance play advertisers, basically. So you need different kind of ad formats which to support that entire lower funnel conversion conversations which you're having. So performance is obviously the sector which is fairly important, and also adopting to video, not just with video format, but a mix of video and display formats. And then the entire content influencer piece, which is picking pace dramatically on a very small base. It started off as being a pure art, but we are trying to inject more and more science into it, basically. So I'll cover everything, and we pretty much our offerings cover all the scope. So I talk about all of that. Viewed across 1,500 cities and towns, the distribution obviously represents Wood's strength per se, especially the strong languages we have, which is Hindi, Marathi, and Kannada. So our geographical dispersion comes from that. But overall, if you see on the right, the dispersion of the online video consumer is pretty much synonymous with Wood out here. So obviously, tier 1 has a disproportionately large share, but it's not just a tier 1 phenomena. It's not the large metro phenomena. But close to 2/3 of our audience comes from outside the top metros also. And it's going more and more rural as you enable access, as you enable distribution dramatically. Again, we spoke about the male sphere of entire internet, but the Indian media ecosystem is a lot equal, right? It's not just dominated by men. So we with our mix of what we call the cradle to grave offering have actually managed to cover both the gender bases fairly dramatically, and the intent is to try and replicate is as much of TV on digital as possible, which means that this is a slightly better, more balanced gender skew than what internet typically sees across OTT platforms. So that I think everyone has to do some course correction out there. Obviously, there is a differentiated content because network content is the bread and butter. So you had network content, a large library of it, and you launch a digital pipeline for it. But what do you help give to the your digital fan of the content pieces, basically? So we do a lot of exclusive content, given us strength in non-fiction. It allows us to do that, and so a show like a Roadies with all the auditions, or a Big Boss with all the stuff which happens with 70 cameras working 24/7. Everything cannot make it on TV, purely from a logistic point of view. So can you make it a consumer friendly? Produce fresh content. It's not just about curating content, it's about shooting content also required, and give the digital fan of your network shows something to consume on Voot. So that was the other underlying thoughts on building the entire content library for us. So because you don't get only the full episode, you get something more. So that was the hypothesis. Obviously, Voot originals across different genres, different languages was something which we talk about the digital grammar, which is a bit different than the television grammar. If you're here, we wanted a bit more massified content out here, but something which was meant for the digital audience only. And then we sort of cover base with news, especially live news from our News 18 bouquet, which keeps happening across different languages, across different markets all the time. So these are the four broad buckets in which the way we look at our content umbrella. But obviously, given I spoke about interactive being the big one, we also plan to dial up our esport piece also. We've actually done a lot of streaming already. And some of these are international formats, like a DreamHack is actually a big mega gaming event, which has primarily an on-ground leg to it, but we used to just stream all the stuff which is happening around there on Voot. So we've done 2 chapters of it, streamed live on Voot already. And the idea is that how do we keep building on that? So esports will possibly cater to the next generation of the internet adopters per se. So that's the one thing which we want. And given again our strong youth offering, which I showed you in terms of the age dispersion also. And what also happens is that internet is young. Voot, thanks to the MTV audience, is even younger. So it's again is a native platform where we can cater to the first-time adopters for internet. So the idea is to also branch off into esports at some point in time. TV plus digital, it's the holy grail for the worldwide media planners. But what we actually look at is that how do we know that we are incremental over additional to TV per se, and with substantial eyeballs out there across different languages, across different genres, fiction and non-fiction, and this is at different time points when the shows were happening. What are the chances of you coming and back and watching my content a week later? So when you talk about that, it's basically between half to 2/3 of my audience comes back a week later to watch the same piece of content, which definitely means that it's a bit of an incremental one, because it cannot happen across different ad formats. So basically, there is a different TV audience, and Voot is a daily habit for some of these guys because they're in a single TV household, which bulk of India is unfortunately still. They don't get a chance to control the remote, so you need to watch it on Voot basically. So it becomes a bit of a daily habit across different kind of shows. Obviously, post-lockdown, the quarantine period, and we've defined it from 15th March as a broader definition, basically, what has happened in a lot more engaged users. So we anyway were fantastic on time spent compared to any other OTT platform. We get about close to 45-50 minutes of average time spent. That has grown up dramatically to almost across an hour. People consume that kind of content. Obviously, there's no fresh content supply. The viewers keep fluctuating. The guys who keep returning watch a lot more pieces of content, watch it for longer. And the overall connected TV, which was the old way of consuming content of television, is becoming more and more important. So that has gone up in importance. What we're also trying to do in the different genres, which are, so obviously Mytho has become a bit of the flavor of the season, Mytho and news, because of all the good and unfortunately a lot of the bad stuff which we're listening to, but there is history which is doing very well, thrillers, some of our old fiction shows, those traditional shows like a Balika Vadu or a Kaise Yari. I don't know if anyone has watched and followed any of these shows. Both were big rage amongst their respective audience base. So they have seen some of the massive numbers. So the idea is to republish some of our older favorites also, to reinvent the wheel of, and that's what, again, digital platform allows you to rediscover archived shows also from earlier. An idea is also to build an audience network, which is not just restricted to Woot, but have our content across different pieces also. So we are available across some content aggregators. I spoke about connected TVs, where everyone can watch our content with in a brand safe environment. We are also possibly the only one which sort of caters to the Geo universe in a dramatic manner, where we're available on Geo feature phone, which is meant for a very, very different kind of audience, which is the audience on the move. It's a 1500 rupee phone, 1500 to 2000 rupee phone, but has all entertainment content. So it caters to a very different audience, the lower pop strata per se, not the lower pop strata, the lower NCCS classification. And we also available on Geo TV, which is the live stream. And we have an advertiser solution for all of these also. So you can, there's a wide audience universe which we've created to make it friendly for our advertisers, and obviously a range of solutions for marketing needs. I'll briefly talk about in terms of how the segmentation works, and this is, I'm just representing the OTT industry out here. Obviously there's the inventory solutions and the non-inventory solutions, which we all put under Woot Studio. Inventory solution is easy. There is and again, you guys will know this better than me, but there is a digital audience which needs to be catered. There is a first party audience, which all the digital marketers have, which is the data asset which you have created. There is second party, like for instance, in our case, the first party audience is my Woot audience, which is, I know them inside out, what content they're watching, what are the stuff they're doing. Second party will be, say, a sister data like a money control data or MTV data, which all of these as large consumer brands, we're part of the same network, but as large consumer brands have their own way of aggregating that. That's as reliable as first party, but it belongs to someone else, so it becomes second party for us. And third party is the data which we all can access through multiple aggregators like Oracle, Mobilewala, around the world. Different aggregators have different strengths around the world. What we try and do from our inventory planning point of view, we try and bring it all together through our own in-house tool which we call Maverick. So obviously the starting point of this is a strong understanding of your own audience. In our case, it was also a very, very high logged in user base. You typically don't need to log in to watch any video content, right? But it was just available for anyone. When we had Woot Kids out here, people used to come and share. You could set a password to allow your kid to only get restricted to the kid app. And honestly, spouses these days don't share their phones, but you share your mobile phone with the kid. So you wanted to make it safe for the kid. So there was a 4-character PIN, which is as strong as, say, what our credit cards are protected with, which if you set that up, the kid cannot watch anything which is non-animation or outside the Woot Kids environment when it was within the app per se. The offtake for that was so high that we almost had 40 to 50% of people with actual demographic data, because you needed to create your login ID and all for you to set the password, which gave us such a rich understanding of the demographics of our audience. That was the starting point trigger. Obviously, you could through lookalike modeling, machine learning, through what similar content pieces being watched, similar ads being engaged with, you could expand that logged in user base to have a fairly robust understanding. And it was, from what we gathered with our tech partners like Nielsen, Moat and all, it's above industry standards, way above industry standards. Obviously, layer it with second party data from whichever is the reliable second party data, and we tap into third party data like ZeoTap for the time being. We're working Gotme in the past. So and the idea is to process it all together and create an understanding which is as robust as any other audience tool will give you. So we call it Maverick. We use it a lot for advertisers to sort of help them target different kind of audience. Obviously do a lot for remarketing, and we're creating buckets on interest and affinity, which is usually a function of the sort of advertisers who are active on the app also per se. So like for instance, obviously the e-commerce apps are far bigger because there are larger advertiser bucket than the offline shopper. So it's in the ad tech world, there's an ever evolving strategy. Will maybe never be, and we hope never to be as strong as the tech platform, because honestly that comes with a great degree of responsible and irresponsible behavior also. But the idea is to be competitive, to keep building on that base, and whatever advertisers work with us should be happy with the results we deliver for them. So, and obviously you can then have different advertising technology layers to help them execute the campaigns, be it programmatic, be it non-programmatic. I'm not getting into those details per se, but that's just a way of you placing your ad. What is Wood Studio? Wood Studio, and this is a bucket of the offering. This is anything which is innovative solutions beyond advertising. And again, different brands do to different degree, different platforms do to different degree, different requirements. So obviously digital sponsorship is for some of these large, at least the non-fiction assets where the eyeballs are so large. People cannot afford on-air sponsorship. So you pick up an only online sponsorship. So like I can think of say one BFSI category on Hotstar. They never go on IPL on Star Sports, but they'll sort of they believe that Hotstar on IPL does the job for them. Similarly for Big Boss, there are a lot of digital first players like a Swiggy and all, which we believe that their native audience lies on digital, and those are large enough numbers for them not to even look at on-air. So depending on what the requirement are, you can the comfort of a large media property, and you can do a lot of solutioning around that. Woot exclusively spoke about from a consumer point of view, but the entire ability to unlock the second screen. In a KBC, can you play along? When we did KBC Tamil, which was an all-women Tamil, can you play along and win some prizes? Can you create a fantasy league for your roadies audience? So all these are exclusive interactive solutions which you can build on Woot, which actually is leveraging the power of second screen, where the first screen and the second screen are talking to each other. The entire space of Woot Originals, where obviously this is branded content. Both it can be either we can write brands in, or we can do bespoke creation for brands, and then the content hosting pieces, which is social media content made a bit premium. I'll give you some examples in terms of how we go about it. Obviously, people believe in the power of brand content, and this is increasingly like even during the lockdown time, the summer stuff. We're doing something very interesting for one of the NGOs out here. It's becoming more and more as a new norm, because this is the way you cut through the clutter, establish the presence of your brand. But what is the unique offering which we bring to the table? The content pulse. We always have some audience inciting going on. The idea is that to bring the same understanding of what we're trying to build for Woot as a platform for all the marketers also. So if you can deliver from there, from a content and of the societal content trend point of view, because it's also fueling the same using the same engine which is fueling your supply. So can you get the advertiser to benefit from that also? All the viewer insights which we get, and digital allows us to really from consumer understanding point of view, goes a lot more deeper than what our traditional platforms can get into, right? So that's the same degree of sophistication out here. Influencer marketing, by virtue of being part of a large network, we have a host of known faces to fall back upon. Basically, we possibly Ayushmann Khurrana, the first claim to fame was on roadies. So the biggest indie stars was Kurtzia. So we have access to some of this top talent which we bring to the table, and the overall marketing communication expertise, because again, while we produce some great content which engages a lot of the Indian, be it on television, be it on digital, the idea is to market it properly. So we are ultimately a digital and a content marketer. So the same degree of expertise can we provide to all the advertisers who are looking at the non-advertising solutions. The outcome can be from short format films, which are not typically ad films, but are one or a series of pieces. We did something for Sugar Free recently around Women's Day, around influencer campaigns. Like we did something around the World Heart Day for Saffola, which spoke about the perils of binge watching, and it came on an OTT platform, and how your heart needs a break, basically. So it was like, and Saffola has created World Heart Day, so they partnered with us. A multi-part series, like say we did something with Singapore Tourism, where we had Saransh Goyla, who's the celebrity chef of Gola's butter chicken factory. So he was on a diet. It was like a digital campaign, and they went on this travel trip, a cheat week in Singapore, where he sort of sampled all the gourmet dishes of Singapore, and we had a lot of digital interactivity built in. We obviously conceptualized it. We sort of promoted in terms of how to follow this entire cheat week. We curated some of the top menus, published it on Voot. It was a total 360-degree solution, which worked for international tourism brand. And a lot of the branded content which people do and just to put in social media, can we give it a bit more of seriousness, a bit more of imagery? Like for instance, Java, a legendary bike brand, came back with these nice travel stories around Ladakh and some music around that. They published it on social media. We also published it, promoted it, drove some views for it. Just like instead of you spending money on to drive views on YouTube, give it a bit of premiumness. And sorry, anyone? Okay. Anyway, I think it's not too long. Yep. And so obviously the one we are the most proud of was we had one brief from ByteDance, TikTok, make it more premium, help us launch EduTalk. We did this show for them. This will be the last minute basically. I'll play a quick sizzle reel of what we did for them, which worked wonderfully for them, gave them a bit more of premium imagery. Remember, TikTok does not host any of this content. It all rested on Voot. We actually went on TV also. It went on MTV also. But it was just to to give them that image as part of the entire EduTalk initiative, which was around medical, which was around health, which was around fitness, which was around learning. It all became a part of their larger campaign. I just play a quick sizzle reel.
What happens when TikTok collaborates with Voot Studio?
Cheers.
Fireworks. Presenting Bollywood's first ever fitness chat show, Work It Up.
Shots in the gym?
A groundbreaking show that breaks the monotony of the celebrity chat shows.
I would gain 20 kgs for a role. No, I don't. I stalked a fellow actor's social media profile at night. Of course I have.
By innovating a fresh experimental format which seamlessly integrates TikTok's EduTalk campaign.
EduTalk. ऐसी series बना रही हूँ जहाँ हम उनको दिखाते हैं how to do an exercise correctly.
A show that is so unique in its concept that the stars are talking about it.
Hey, I want to congratulate you on your new show, Work It Up with Sophie. I'm going to be on your show on season 2.
Combining Voot Studios' creative storytelling and our platform's vast reach, we bring to you the first Bollywood fitness chat show. So, what can we do for you?
Yep. So basically, what I've spoken about, obviously acting as a catalyst for digital adoption across all industries. We are trying to waiver screen, platform, and pipe agnostic. We're trying to go in overdrive, especially for online video, through both technology, content, and I must say access also. Data enrichment and audience understanding will be continue the key drivers. What is the business model? Whether it's advertising led or subscription led, because even for subscription you need to upsell, even for advertising you need to upsell basically. And branded storytelling is the one which was taking shape. It's becoming a lot faster, because thanks to the situation of the overall macro environment. I think I've timed it perfectly. 5 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Abhigyan, for a wonderful presentation on the potential of digital video. You have briefed out about the foundation of the Voot, how basically he's planning some of the key findings that most of the participants were not aware of. And you've given us the complete 360-degree understanding about OTT platform, the future. And with that, we have the questions lined up for you. Now we'll take up the questions, and I hope I'll get very interesting answers from you. So my first question to you, Abhigyan, is how video is transforming the digital marketing industry?
So I don't know how much of it we address. So there are, as I said, there are 2-3 buckets in which you have to look at it. At its starting point, when it started off first, it was all about, there was what you call the cord cutter, the digital only audience. And you're saying that instead of putting some money on some niche channels and all, just put money out there. But now once it's got scale, what people are looking at it as a serious media reach and frequency platform, just like they look at, say, my colors channel. And they're bringing the same grammar to it. So, but what it's transforming it is that the ability to do a lot of measurement, which sometimes works to a detriment also, which TV does not allow you to do that. I'll give you two very, very simple examples. Uh, Digital works on something called a frequency cap. Frequency cap, or what you call effective frequency in traditional video planning, is the holy grail for all media planners. On TV, when you do plans, you'd say that you have an effective frequency, which is usually 3 as a thumb of, back of a thumbnail option, but you can, I find the right frequency is the key one. The fact that digital allows you to do a frequency cap where TV does not allow you to do that is a great thing. Again, the reduction of the wastage. If you're trying to do an announcement, it's great to use TV, but if you want to do address what is called the addressable audience. So like while there are 200 consumers for any TV channel, your addressable audience will be a 10%, 15%, which is the media audience which the brand is looking to target. So the ability to cap it within that audience, digital allows you to do that. So at its heart, the media reach and frequency with a far more sophisticated manner, which makes it a lot more cost effective. I thought that I'll put that slide up, but I thought that will be very obvious, but that's the grammar on which most of us are working. So obviously it's measurable, it's cost effective, and the fact that it can be interactive, engaging is the side benefit to it to a degree.
Okay, great, Abhigyan. My next question to you, since you mentioned into the deck regarding the you have developed a very interesting product for the different TV. My question to you is, where do you see the future of edutainment compared to the entertainment?
That's honestly, you should be telling me that. You are the expert instead of me out there.
So according to me, that's a huge future. So if you talk about edutainment, with the TikTok coming out with the very interesting initiative, and there are so much, since OTT platforms are growing, we are seeing a huge demand of the students across tier 2 and tier 3 cities. They want to learn very interesting content. Okay, so days are gone where people used to learn from the boring professors. They want entertainment plus value as well.
So I tell you the two things which is happening. Obviously, we'll revisit the way we are doing these sessions. The way we'll revisit how we work in going forward, where who all need to come to office. So that will be happen. And the overall edutainment space also, if you can scale it up, the way it's got scaled up in the last 2 months, and we work with a lot of the education partners, right? So, and I must say that we started carrying some of that content also, because again, we are of interest thanks to our youth audience to some of these guys. So we just gone live with some upgrade content. We've sorry, it was upgrade or an academy, I can't remember. So we've just gone live or about to go live. So with some of this content, there's an academy which advertises with us. So if you ask me, it's obviously the native audience lies on digital medium. So I think it will undergo, it will enable new business models. It will mean a change in the way we continue learning, in the way we communicate to our consumers also. And it will just be an entirely new ecosystem, if you ask me. What will also mushroom is a lot of the adoption of digital devices. Let's be honest, like the lockdown came with no this thing. So to do it something on a small screen, will it mean a offtake for pure educational tablets, pure educational laptops? That will be ultimately, while it's a very mobile, is a very one-on-one medium. Is it good enough just for education? So there are a lot of things which people will also go through. So it will upscale the entire hardware system also to that degree.
Okay, great. My next question to you is, what are the new underrated skills which would command a huge demand in the future?
Sorry, new underrated?
Skills which would command a huge future into the coming time.
Again, what's the new underrated skill? I think overall, the entire enabling the tech infrastructure, that is going to come up a lot more. Anything which can be done remotely, I think has a great future. Teaching is obviously, we spoke about it. Some of the legal practices, some of the medicinal practices. Can you start doing this long distance? Fitness. PureFit has had a massively good month, right? So it sort of just changes the fundamentals of the company. It's a bit like what digital payments benefited from demonetization. Some of these sectors, I think, will see a massive growth. Online gaming, obviously, we speak is a big one. or where you start getting into it more and more. So the new skills, if you ask me, will be the sectors which are employed in the skills which are employed in these sectors is the one which have a very bright future.
Okay, so I think these are very important skills that you mentioned. My next question to you is, since you are a media veteran in the part of the media and entertainment industry since last decade, my question to you is how media and entertainment industry would look like post COVID-19?
I show some of the trends. I think those trends will get accelerated. Digital advertising will accelerate for sure. Digital adoption will grow a lot faster. Obviously, assuming content will start coming back in some form or shape, our content production will undergo a change. A lot of shoot at home videos will start mushrooming, right? And we're talking about good production quality. So the entire, again, I'm from different generation. What Gladiator did during my younger days, Gladiator was shot entirely digitally, basically. A lot of the new practices will start when it's shot on iPhone generally becomes a full-length feature film to a degree, basically. So the content production will start happening a lot more different, because if you're maintaining the social distancing norms, will your studios look a lot different than what we've been so far used to seeing them. Obviously, a lot more performance marketers will start sampling more and more of these digital platforms. Obviously, the number one thing which is happening is the entire subscription piece going through the per se. More and more people are getting to the habit of paying for content. As I said, my newspaper example, Indians don't like paying for content and internet. And that's the reason maybe YouTube took off so well. It was cheap. People didn't bother about the data speeds and the quality was suspect. So it took off dramatically, just built the habit. So maybe subscription and so the paid services will get adopted a lot faster than what we are. And we've seen some great numbers for both Select and Kids, which is our paid offering.
Okay, so paid subscription and the home shooting and so many other
home shooting in different form. What you've been used to seeing, it will come back in a different form, basically. Every content had this thing, so it may just look a lot different than what it has been so far.
Okay, great. My next question to you is, what would be the role of programmatic advertising in driving the revenue for Voot?
So I did put the programmatic slides, but like for me, programmatic is growing dramatically. And I believe that will hasten further, because if apart from the fact that all the benefits programmatic also has, the ability to do cross-platform targeting in a reasonable manner lies with programmatic. So in programmatic in all form or shape, whether it's PG, PD, PMP, will go through the roof. So it will mean a faster adoption. It would also mean all the hardcore digital advertisers who believe in programmatic, a faster conversion for them. And I can tell you from my own example, it's almost has increased from 1/3 to touching 2/3. So that's the pace at which we're adopting. Obviously, display, everything was programmatic. On video also, that is becoming an important one.
Okay, so I think that is more dramatic than the step study approach. My next question to you is, since you're part of this media entertainment industry since last 15 years, what are the two memorable experiences that you would like to share with the participants? Memorable one.
Memorable one, okay.
And since you being part of the sales, so you might have encountered with so many memorable experiences.
Yeah, so the two most memorable I can think of from mine, and this is across just as a professional, as a practicing professional per se, is I think first time when you realize the power of digital was when the YouTube Fan Fest was held. And the entire clamor, so you realize that it was not a niche medium anymore. That audience out there, and this was an on-ground event, right? YouTube Fan Fest was an on-ground event. The clamor for passes, the crowds out there, it just showed the entire unlocking the power of digital per se. So that is one of the most memorable one according to me. I saw it recently with the power of what I call the digital account, because still you don't have a subscription offering. It's always about the Big Boss fans and the Roadies fans out on Voot, right? But just when we launched Voot Selects recently, our first show, Asur, which was rating about 9+ on IMDb. The number of calls I got from my family, it's not funny that how do we watch Asur? It's like teaching and as I say, I'm old. You can imagine my older folks trying to tell them how the dominant TV and how they can buy. Amount of troubleshooting you would do it at a one-on-one level. It was almost like a customer service experience. So just shows the power of powerful content and how it can change it. So these are, if you ask me, are fairly, I'll remember them basically.
Great. Okay. So I think you answered this very honestly. So I'll again ask you one more question. What COVID-19 has taught you as a human being and as a professional?
Human, if you ask me, it should teach of us to take nothing for granted. We should be really thankful we should be grateful. And it's really from the state, whatever we're hearing, or the migrant displacement or whatever, should be, if anyone thought that we were unlucky or unprivileged, just thank your lucky star for the privilege we have that we can have this conversation sitting in our living rooms. Bulk of the Indians can't afford that. So that as a gratefulness, if you ask me, is the underlying thought. It can still happen to any of us, and let's not forget that we brought it.
Exactly.
The international travelers who brought it. It's not a native disease per se. So we've got it for them. So, and they are suffering. So we should be really grateful. We should make each and every moment count. That's as a human being, I'll say. As a professional, if you ask me, we have to all reinvent ourselves. This is a relatively easier one to do. Trying to do sales is still, while we're selling hopefully a latest edge consumer tech business, sales is still a very old-fashioned one-on-one, sitting across the table, reading body language, that kind of business. The fact that you can't do that anymore, you need to do it. I needed to talk to 100 people without gauging the body language, reaction, whether you guys are following me, not following me. That's the experience. That's a mental reorientation. We used to drop a sales, and this is across businesses, not just my business, but a sales call is an important metric for any sales executive, bulk of my team members. The shape of that has changed. So it means an orientation starting from me and going down into the team. So I have to do if I have to do a team building exercise, I'm doing a virtual one tomorrow. So these are the stuff which we need to start doing. So the ability to just work long distance digitally is, as a professional, we have to reorient ourselves. And I'm sure there are a lot more people like me.
Yeah, exactly. There are so many people who are learning new things and trying to adapt to this changing condition. My last two question, second last question is, what are the new skills that you're learning apart from being a professional at home right now?
I'm trying to pick up something on machine learning. The problem with machine learning is so new, and I'm not sure really anyone understands it. It's a bit of a buzzword. So, but I'm trying to do some courses on machine learning if I can. So it will just help, because what has happened is, I think the days are busier because there's no downtime at all. There is no what you classically call the chai breaks or tab break time. You have to define that by right? Because when you're not in office, there's no scope of that. That entire socializing is gone. So the commute time is obviously being saved, depending on where you're commuting from and where you're commuting to. But trying to see that if I can pick it up, because sometimes during the frivolous, which are not frivolous, but the important, but relatively frivolous, the chai sutta breaks and the commute time, you never got time for anything else basically. So I'm trying to see that if I can do something out there.
Okay.
LinkedIn and all. That's what I'm trying to do.
Okay. My next question is, what is the next very popular series like Asur gonna come on Woot?
Watch, we just released the legal drama. I'm forgetting the name of it. So it will come on Wood Select. Otherwise, we do. I'm forgetting the names of both the shows. Hang on. We are doing something around the award space, which is let me try and think about that. It's not coming to my mind. And we just released a legal drama. Honestly, legal drama. Yeah, I'm forgetting the names of these, because what has happened, we had a plan to do it once every month. Because of the lockdown, we have to hasten it. So it's just like, I know we've done Asur, we've done Marzi, we've done Riker case, and we've just dropped in the promo last week of the latest legal drama. I'm forgetting the name of it. I think it's called Guilty. So I just yeah, and we're also doing a quarantine show, which is Khelo Funse. Khelo Funse basically. So these are two new shows we're doing. We're trying to see if we can bring roadies back in some form or fashion, because roadies is aborted in between. So we're trying to see that if we can do something around roadies. The problem is, honestly, we're struggling to edit stuff also. Even the existing content, if we can just edit it and put it out there, that would be fresh content. But even the editing machines are not working. So as I said, something in the supply chain is always broken. So, and we are a smaller industry, less than 1% of the entire economy. So there's a larger play out there. So we have to find our ways around how do you get back on your feet.
Okay, okay. So I'll just ask you one more question. The Asur and the Vaikar stories that you mentioned. So should audience needs to wait till the lockdown gets over to watch the second part, or like how it would be?
Uh, yeah, you'll have to wait and watch, unfortunately. That no one is
Oh,
in. It's a bit like, how do I call it? I don't know if anyone watches, for instance, Last Kingdom, which I watched on Netflix, for instance. You don't know whether the season 5 is coming at all or not. So,
okay,
so
okay.
no one knows how what the future entails. But yeah, right now we'll definitely come back. But when, how, it's a soothsayer's job instead of a business person's job.
Okay, great. Now we'll take up the participants' question, and so many questions are flooding in from across social platform and digital platforms. Now, one question is by Ms. Kiran. So she's asking, what are the challenges as a student in the media and entertainment industry?
Challenges for the student, or when we
Yeah,
were.
challenges. Yes, yeah, like when you were a student, when you joined the media entertainment industry, what were the challenges that you have faced?
I tell you, look, I joined in a very different era. I can tell you about today's what has happened, and I'm talking about from my time, since it's becoming worse only. Uh, we joined what was technically a fragmented media scape because India was migrating. I joined around when KBC changed the Indian television landscape, right? So India was migrating from a very cable TV was a very niche phenomena to becoming the mass phenomenon which it became, right? So they call it the fragmentation of the media landscape. Now it's even more so. So now the fragmentation and how to pick your bet is the key thing which anyone needs to answer. Second thing, honesty, is about how you keep track of your audience a lot better from the media planning and buying side. We know our audience very well. We have a relative one, and digital allows you to do that much better for the other guys also. But honesty, to really keep track of the pulse of the consumer is always a tricky. I used to find it very challenging because there was something which reports were telling you, but what was happening on ground. So keeping ears to the ground and handling media fragmentation and the complexities which are coming in because of that. These are the two prime broad challenges which one should just keep it and look out for.
Okay, okay. I hope Kiran got the answer. Next question is basically on the scope of digital marketing in media and entertainment industry. Would gonna increase or decrease? What's your take?
It's going to increase only. As I said, media entertainment is under-penetrated in this country. So there's a lot of headroom to grow as a percentage. Forget the absolute terms. Basically, it's bound to increase. And as more and more, and I'm still very bullish about Indian economy. I continue to be optimistic. I know these are tough times, but the rebound hopefully will be far better than what we've seen so far. I'm looking at as early as next quarter, hopefully. Once the rebound happens, I believe a lot of pent-up consumer demand is going to come back, basically. So yeah, I'm very bullish about both advertising and the subscription business. If you ask me, we're learning new habits, and that's an important one we're doing from a subscription point of view. There are more and more advertisers coming, demanding more and more technology solutions. So yep, that's what I'll see. I see there's a extremely optimistic about it.
Okay. Ayush on YouTube has asked me, sir, I want to join the media and entertainment industry as an internship. Right now, I'm at home. What are the opportunities that I can get from work from home?
Uh, that's a very generic question. Depends on what exactly is your competence and what is your area of interest. So, and I'm sure, and it depends on what you mean by internship in terms of what sort of time you're willing to devote to this. Is it a 15-day project you want a 6-month project? It's a very open-ended one. But I think there are enough and more people trying to get stuff done from home. I think I'd put my email ID out there. If there's a specific interest, someone can reach out to me on the social media profiles or something like that. I'll see if I can do anything, but you have to be a bit more specific. But I think there are always opportunities. Do remember, media entertainment industry is as much affected by the economic tailwinds as any other industry. In fact, even more so, because the advertising, at least the one I represent, is the first thing which is the most discretionary spends. So, and that is on such a massive back wicket right now. So it's actually the toughest time to try and enter in the job market right now. I'll not make any bones about it. So basically, you have to be patient. I personally believe that the rebound will be very strong. So everyone, all of you out there, should be very, very patient. Right now, be ready for the long haul. It will be tough, a tough ahead basically. We're seeing it. I seeing it firsthand. I have my ears to the ground. I see with all my advertisers slashing budgets or having a negative outlook. I'm optimistic because that's in my inherent nature. But I think one cannot be just reckless. So you will have to be very, very careful in terms of what is the burden we are taking on along basically. But internship opportunities and all, we'll be happy to figure out in terms of what exactly are you looking for.
Okay, so be ready for the tough time and work on the skills and optimistic about the future.
Correct.
Next question is by Mr. Ashish. So he's asking, sir, what are the opportunity for new startups in the media and entertainment space?
Again, depends upon what is the startup about. So media entertainment thrives on startups. I personally sort of work a lot with them. It's because there are so many challenges which need to be still solved, and we are at the bare base of it basically. There's so much of headroom to grow. I can keep talking about. I spoke about machine learning overall, but in terms of cross-platform measurement, there's a lot of stuff to do. What you can do within the screen, the contextual advertising space, that's a space to be occupied, because while digital is easy to consume, it's a very, very difficult thing to put together. So the technology behind the session we are having, I'm sure it was fairly complicated. It took some time for it to get streamlined, to get robust enough for us to have this conversation. So depend upon, I think there is a lot of stuff which startups can solve for, and we work with a lot of them to help us for different parts of our business. And I continue to believe that we'll continue working with them, because as the business grows, the complexity also keeps growing. And one person cannot specialize in everything. So you need to keep having more and more multiple partners as part of your entire stack.
Okay, great. I hope you got the answer. We have Mr. Sameer. So he's asking, sir, what would be the role of influencer marketing into the OTT platform?
I think I spoke about it a bit. So it's a very small sector, but more and more people are adopting it. And some of the stuff which has started happening around the COVID era, and again, it's too small a time series to be statistically valid. But influencer marketing, what digital allows you to do is it allows you to do define your area of influence in a massive fashion. And I can talk about from my experience, when we go and pitch for a brand and content piece, the biggest variable we leave open is the entire cost of talent stroke influencer. I got a great idea. Treat it like a movie. You got a great movie idea. You want to put a Shah Rukh Khan in there, the budget will be dramatically different. It will be at least 3x of what you had envisaged it. You put a Ranveer Shori in there, the budget will be dramatically different. You put Ayushmann Khurrana in there, the budget will be a bit different. So the influencer and the ability to influence per se dictates a lot of the commercial around some of the projects which we put together. And we actually, I've got it. I use that in my sales tech and all. We work with a startup which manages to define the influencer very well. Is it a micro influencer? Is it a hyper local influencer? And we can keep going more and more granular, but ultimately you'll get no scale. There is an influencer within my society building. Someone wants to just target my society. They can use that influencer to do something like that. So you can actually define it as good as you can define advertising. And we work with a startup out there to help us define that very sharp. But obviously there's a ready-made list of influencers which we work with, because we pretty much know that what a standard advertiser costs for. But otherwise, you can define it based on the scope of the work. Like the example I showed to you, Work It Up. That are some real A-grade names. And it was just nothing but a chat show while they were working out per se. Some very good-looking people working out and talking and giving some tidbits. That works. That is what they were looking for, because TikTok was looking for, to get a bit more premiumness, a bit more style around the entire project. And we brought it to the table. So that was like somewhere else altogether. But you can obviously define it that me working out is technically, I can be a fitness freak, but it does not really move anyone. I'm just using as a conjecture example, and nothing like a fitness influencer.
Great. I hope that answers the question. Now, last two questions, and then we'll wrap it up. Since you might have seen the recent controversy of OTT platforms versus the multiplexes, that most of the film producers are exclusively releasing their movies onto the OTT platform. where do you see, would that be a new trend where movie producer would be exclusively tying up and releasing the new movies on OTT platforms? What is your take as a media industry veteran?
Okay, I'm not the domain expert on that business specifically. That's a very, very complex business, very comes with a different. I'm not sure I should be commenting on that. I can tell you only as a consumer. I think the reason that is happening also is because your regular multiplexes are shut. So when your regular distribution channels are shut, instead of letting the movies lie in the can, you thought that they might as well see the light of the day. So whether that will become a trend or not, I don't know. I personally, as a consumer, I can tell you, the next Christopher Nolan movie or the next James Bond movie, I definitely want to go and watch it on large screen. So
Okay,
I have absolutely no this thing if it comes on Netflix or whatever, but I definitely want to. I want to stay with that experience. But as I'm as much of a consumer out here because that's a very, very complex and a unique skill set of the entire media and entertainment business. But so right now, what is happening is very tactical. I don't know that it will become a trend or not, but obviously people will, a lot more people would have sampled it than otherwise would have happened in normal times.
exactly. It's a very technical thing, and we'll see in the future where which side that consumer goes, whether it's OTT platform or multiplex post COVID-19. That will be interesting trend. The last question is, how was your experience in the last 1.5 hours being a keynote speaker for the Digital Gurukul Masterclass?
Look, I think usually I just spoke to on my presentation and 15-20 minutes interacted with you guys. So it was quite wonderful. It was a fresh, refreshing experience. I must say I would have preferred it with my old mindset still there to do it a bit more where I could see the people, but that's okay. So it was good fun. I hope you guys also got something out of this.
Yeah, great. I think it was a real pleasure having you for the Digital Gurukul Masterclass, and your thoughts, your opinions and views, basically as a media veteran, basically enlighten all the audience and participants, whether it's a student, professional, watching across all digital platforms. And it was absolute honor to have you. And thank you so much for being part of our masterclass series, and we'll surely be connecting with you. And be safe and see you soon. Thank you so much, Mr. Abhigyan.
Sure. Thank you so much, guys. Be safe, be healthy, be
Thank you
positive.
so much.
Chalo,
Thank
bye-bye.
you
All
so
the
much.
best.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Thank you.